But let's move into a game that I don't think anybody expected to happen. We had the Lions at Baltimore, and the score was 6-38. What a shit show for the Lions. So I guess I want to ask you is like, why do you think Detroit fell apart in that game? Detroit.
Well, again, from because I said I was excited to watch the film for this one too. But again, the film is all 22 is actually still not even out yet, so I'm still waiting on the film. From what I saw in the broadcast, though, I didn't even get to watch the entire thing. You know how it is on the first day. You're red zoning. You're getting everything. You're trying to stay up with everything. From what I had seen, I think it looked like the Ravens had a lot more motion ready for them than they were ready to deal with, and they were just getting them out of position consistently. And their pass rush, I don't think, was ready for how much the pocket was going to move and how much they were going to have to stay in their gap and kind of like gap fill, because they would just they would flood the gap, and then Lamar says, oh, fuck it, you don't know who I am. And he would just step right up and go. And we know, as we said, this was going to be the Ravens offense the whole year, is what makes them so dangerous. Is Lamar is different in the sense of
Lamar played
he really
so
is good in the
well.
pocket now too. He's an elite. I'll say he's elite in the pocket now. And on top of that, he can do things in the pocket no one else can, escaping. So it's like, that's what we said. This was the one that really like shaped the narrative. We said the Ravens are some favorites out the AFC. If this receiving core can play like this every single week, circa Tom Brady 2015 type stuff, where you're like, you don't need as much of superstar guys. You just need one really good. You need one guy you can trust, and then the rest of them are just gonna be serviceable that day. Which in this case is Mark Andrews. You can trust, and everyone else got to be serviceable. You know what? The Ravens can hang with anybody, but it comes down to that core and how they want to play that day. Because we've seen there are certainly days they will take Lamar out of the game.
Yeah,
so it comes down to them. Because Lamar is going to show up. That's how I look at it at this point.
So you would consider the Ravens real contenders then?
There's no doubt. And again, with Monken running the offense like this, the offensive coordinator change was all you needed. It really was. It's so great to see this happening live. Because like we said about, I won't say his name yet. We said about somebody where we've seen how they went from great coaching to the mediocre coaching, and now we're seeing the regression. You see how it is with the guy who we're like, trust me, he needs the guy who will put him in the right position.
That is a very good
point.
point.
Then you see him putting him in the right position. You're like, see, it's not just that a guy can just be the greatest player on earth without help around them. You got to have something that works together. Nobody's just that talented as a football player that they go out and do it themselves. It has to be a system.
So let me ask you this then, Dobbs. What do you think Detroit needs to do going forward to make sure this doesn't happen again? Because I think everyone was super on the Lions hype train, and then once they faced like an elite team, they got destroyed.
I think this is the thing nobody's really been talking about. I think this is my biggest thing about this game with the Lions.
Okay.
I think the Lions fans would agree. And again, yes. Is a 32-point loss is this an excuse for it? No. Let me be clear. Losing the game is an excuse for, in a sense, losing the game. But the 32-point loss is atrocious, and it does need to be. They're going to address it. There's going to be a lot of things that have got to change how physically approach it. Dan Campbell's going to make sure that they hear about it. But aside from that, my main point, I think the Lions are much more reliant on having Dave Montgomery in the game plan than we had thought. Obviously, having their bell cow guy.
Because even Jahmyr Gibbs had a good day.
That's
his best day.
We can see that they don't trust him enough to ever give him the same reps they're going to give Monty right now, because the game plan clearly was not revolving around him. It was very like, Ben, drop your best shotgun heavy day. Give me your best play action heavy day out of eye, and we're gonna run and we're gonna try to get to fool them, because we don't want to give Jahmyr the ball 30 times. He's gonna fumble it once. He's gonna mess something up once, and unfortunately, that's how they approached the day. And it was like, we're going to get Craig in there to pass block because we don't trust Jahmyr pass block at that butt. You get what I'm saying. And they kind of had to rock with how they had to rock it. I think that's kind of part of the issue too, is that when you don't trust Jahmyr to be out there blocking the whole time as much too, it turns into like, well, if Craig's out there, there's probably a much better chance it's going to be a pass block. And then it gets much easier to really know what's going on. And it's like, that's part of the problem too. I think the Ravens kind of knew exactly what to expect, because the Lions were put in a bind that they put themselves in a bind, not trusting Jahmyr and Craig the same way they trust Monty.
Well, also, it's like, can you trust Jameson Williams? He was targeted 6 times and didn't catch a single one.
That's looking like it was I'm not going to call it a bad pick yet, but we're going to call it, and they obviously,
it's questionable right now.
They overassessed the value for sure.
Yeah, it's really a shame. Their offense would have been ridiculous if he ends up working out. Like,
I think they do also in his defense, though. They need to start using him more just for what he's doing, is to be
Deep
useful,
shots.
though. It's like you got to just.
But he dropped that one.
It's like send him. I think I know, and that's the thing. It's tough because he's not producing. But I think to get his confidence up, I think sometimes they try to use him a little. You try to. I get it. You want to get him in the game. You want to get him blocking a lot. You want to get him to bring the defense down. If he runs a curl, if he runs a drag, he's gonna slide someone out. My thing is, look, just get him down the seam consistently. Get him to stretch the defense. If you get it, you don't have to target him once that game. He will take a safety out of the game the entire game. You just got to use him as such.
I agree. Yeah, it's kind of like when the Bears were trying to have Chase Claypool block. Like,
he's a good blocker. It's like he can do it. He's not Chase Claypool where he can't. But my thing is just like in the sense of like it's not his skill set where you gotta be. Yeah. Let's not make that his main thing. Like, what's the point?